Good morning, Giants. Welcome to Wake Up with Giants TV. Have you ever wondered about life after awakening? Good morning, Giants. Welcome to Wake Up with Giants TV. I'm Ryan Morris, and as always, I'm here with your host, Nicholas T. Smith, the author of The Giants and the Smalls. You can find it on Amazon, TikTok, Twitter, Twitch, Farmers Only, all the other sites that are out there. I make that joke every time. It never gets old, I don't think, but maybe it has.
It's like a U2 song. You could just listen to it over and over again.
It's everywhere. So follow us on YouTube. Hit the alert button so you can know when we go live every single dang time, and then subscribe. And then also go to Facebook, A Tribe of Giants. We've got a great group of people that support each other and good motivation along the way. And what else we got going on, Nick? You got the Sum Gigante groups running right now. Those are awesome.
Sum Gigante are running. The Stretch Revolution is the newest thing, and that is powerful. It's a self-study course. Runs for 12 weeks. 84 emails. Somebody said 84 emails a day. I'm not going to open that. No, it's over the whole term. So we had Stephanie Kojak out of Australia do the meditations for that. Mm-hmm. And they are powerful. So at night you fall asleep with these meditations, and in the morning you dive into your stretches. And they're not physical stretches, so don't worry if you're out of shape. It's perfect. But if you're out of shape and like stretching in your life and doing hard things, it's the perfect program for that. Mm-hmm. So yeah,
perfect. That's amazing. Well, yeah. Is there anything else before we introduce our guest?
No, we got the amazing.
Let's introduce our guest,
Adnani. Yeah. I mean, she's been on, this is her second time on this show, on the Sunday show. And if you didn't know, we are moving away from the Thursdays and pulling those back into Sundays. So you might see a mix of journey and expertise here, which will make it a lot easier for us to facilitate things. But Sarra, if you don't know about Sarra, she for a year lost her voice. And we talked about that in the last episode. And it was impactful because she couldn't speak. I hear that in the
background. I'm going to have to get that. Give me 1 second.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Is that your Roomba talking to
you? Alexa. I do not understand you. I'm going to keep going though. Sarra, she runs retreats. So she's doing one in Morocco. I think that one's sold out. Is that correct? The one in Morocco that's coming up?
Almost sold out.
So you've got 2 more seats?
Yes.
What? 2 more seats. I was looking at your website today. If you haven't checked that out, let me pull that up here. It's across the bottom there. So go to that website, check it out. If you're into yoga, psychology, spirituality, and you really want to
your voice
in Morocco, this would be the trip for you, right? So it's in Morocco, right?
Absolutely. It's in Morocco. It's at the Fairmont Resort, which is in Sarra Adnani Beach. For those who surf, they know Sarra Adnani Beach because it is known as one of the biggest surfing spots in the world. So it's right there in the Atlantic Ocean. So we have the beach front and the mountain backdrop. So
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never been, but one of these days I'm going to sign up. I say one of these days, that's the safest answer. It's like it's like you say you're going to do it and then it's out years from now. No, I'm going to do it. I don't stretch very far physically, so that might be a good thing.
Yeah, more reason to do. A lot of guys say I can't stretch or I don't do yoga.
Yeah.
And I say that's exactly why you need to do yoga.
Yeah, I think I can get
those
down
are
to
the reasons.
The top of my knees, right? Like right there. That's as far as I get. Well, let's dive into the topic here, life after awakening. Last time we talked about your journey and how you did lose your voice and how that became impactful in your life. So when you talk about life after awakening, when you came up with that topic, what did you have in mind?
once you go through the awakening, which is, for me, was painful at first to go through all of those months of looking at, once you come out of it, for me, I thought that was it, right? Like, I've reached the top, and uh I understand now, or I get it, or I know it all, right? Like, nothing can disturb, nothing can rattle me.
Mm.
And also, I was in that place of nothing, nothing, nothing matters in this physical reality. We're spiritual beings, and none of these things that I was running after matter. So I went, for me, my life after awakening, I went completely to the left side, like the complete spiritual kind of like kumbaya, living in the air. um, Not worried about life itself, kind of, not, I had no more goals. I had no more, I just didn't care about anything. I was pretty satisfied. I mean, I spent like maybe a year or two pretty much doing nothing, just some yoga and chilling, meditation and camping, when I was in LA, and nothing bothered me. um, which was a good space to be at, but I also completely lost my grounding, which I didn't know at the time. But not, I became, here's the word, I became very passive.
Mm.
So I went from the overachiever who's working nonstop and who's also partying nonstop to the nothing matters. Uh, yeah, camping and chilling was amazing. I was became a burner. I was going to Burning Man every year. I still go to Burning Man every year. I just started doing all these festivals, just like living the nomadic life. Um, so that, after a while, that kind of like just got boring, maybe, or it didn't make sense to do that anymore, or it just, I became lost again, I guess is the right way to put it. um, I didn't like the fact that I was just doing nothing, but I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to go back to that job, and I didn't want to, I did, I hired a coach, and I figured out I wanted to be a coach, but I wasn't that, kind of like my drive died. I was
Mm.
taking it easy. um, I thought, from a deeper perspective, I thought that nothing should bother me anymore, or that I'm not allowed to get mad or sad or angry, or, I was trying to be a monk or live like them or be like them. Uh, so in the process of doing that, I started suppressing me, just being very passive as well. So even if someone does something that bothers me, or someone oversteps or anything like that, I would just not say anything, let it go. Everything became loose
Hmm.
for me. Um, and I was confusing that for being open, or there's a distinction there between being loose and being open. Um, and then I, decided to move back to Miami and open the yoga studio, which I did, and had a lot of issues actually running that, because I would just let a lot of things go. Um, I wasn't doing business as I've learned to do business. Uh, I couldn't I couldn't set boundaries. I didn't know what boundaries were, or I didn't think I had the right to set boundaries. Um, if anybody said anything that bothered me, well, it's my fault. I'm the one who needs to look within me. Why is this bothering me? This person is just my reflection. Um, I, someone stole money from me, and I just didn't. I thought, again, it just turned a lot into self blame and self. Hi, Jen. A lot of on me. So whatever happens, let me go and look within and see what I need to do better, without any sort of boundaries or without any sort of structure or grounding or discipline or anything like that. I would let anything go, everything go. And I thought that was just the way to be. That's the way to be enlightened. Because as a yogi, I'm not supposed to get mad. I'm not supposed to get angry. I'm not supposed to tell people no. I'm not supposed to have any of these negative feelings. And if I do, it is me who's not doing my work. So I didn't even know that I was doing this back then. That I was shaming myself and blaming myself and judging myself that way. Which I'm not saying that's not the work. Like even right now, whatever happens, I look within me first, but I vocalize what's going on. I speak up. So then, I had this beautiful relationship with this guy. We were madly in love, and that's who I was in the relationship as well. Very, very passive. Whatever goes, goes. It's not that I just let him lead the relationship, but I completely lost myself in him. I wouldn't speak up. I wouldn't say anything. It was, yeah, baby, this is good. So it was just, this is how it all became. I went from Sarah who fights for everything to Sarah who doesn't say anything. And I don't know if there was like maybe that trauma still in my voice, or I don't know. Or like my understanding at the time from spirituality is just to allow everything to go and to be, or I don't know, but that's just who I became.
Do you think it's more of this swinging the pendulum? Like when a pendulum swings, it comes all the way over to one side and you're the fighter. And then you swing all the way over to the other side and you're totally submissive and passive. And so, but often you find this balance in between those two worlds. But before you do that, often people who are one thing extremely will swing over to the other side extremely and then come back to the middle. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what happened. And because of that trauma of losing my, like I exactly swing completely to the opposite side. Because for me, I decided that who I was before was bad. And because who I was before, I lost my voice and went through all that trauma. So whenever, that's exactly it, Nick. Whenever that part of me would try to come up or try and speak up or try and find myself in a position, and that part of me will try to come up to defend me or support me or any of that, I would completely ban it. Like you are not allowed.
Pull it back, right? Like I'm not going there. Kind of
exactly. I'm not going there. That Sarah bad.
Yeah.
So those patterns bad. Those. It's not later that I learned that those distinctions of those are not bad. Those are just kind of skills or weapons. Or I remember at the time when I played Zelda as a kid. I don't know if you guys played Zelda, but I played Zelda as a kid, and you
as
find
an adult, I played it with my daughter. Yeah.
And so it's these things that that you find along the way, and you decide it's your choice whether to use it or not, right? Like if you're a good problem solver, which I am, figuring out what's going on with you and finding a solution. That's what I did in market research. That's always been a skill of mine, but I completely pushed it away instead of figuring out when can I use it, versus completely bad, right? Making it a shadow and not looking at it and making it bad. So
this is interesting, like as a thought, right? The way you were before all of a sudden became the shadow, right? The awakening was this other version, and now that became the shadow. And then you start living this life where that's not really serving you, where you're just taking everything on and it's okay. And that's what you do as a yogi. And then that becomes the shadow. It's like the shadow is always moving. depending on who we're being. And so I think about the awakening as, yeah, you might wake up over here. I have this awakening of being too passive. And so you move over to another place and that becomes the shadow. But then you have an awakening around I'm being too aggressive. And so that becomes the shadow, and you move around to another version of you. And so it's like the identity or the creation of you is always evolving. And so the awakening is simply awakening to wherever you're at. Am I seeing that correctly? Or is there another version of that might work better?
Sounds good.
In theory.
Yes, the way I see it now is, like these are all available to you, right? That's why I go back to like the Zelda example. These are all available to you, and none of them are bad. And as you play in this game, like they emerge, right? And then you decide whether you grab that and use it for that specific situation, you be that, right? Or you make that choice of, look, no, I see why you're emerging, but this is a case where you trying to use me, not serve me, because you live through me. So you're good. I see you. Thank you. Let's maybe next level, or next, I don't know.
So how about this as a thought with that, right? You don't just wake up once in your life. Like I wake up every morning. So if that's an analogy, that every morning we wake up and there's a new creation, I mean, as you're talking about these characters, then there's a new awakening every time you move into one of these characters. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
I'm gonna lean on you. So
you can say like that. It is characters, and it's like you are the awareness, right? You are the awareness that's alive. That's the true you. That's the one that doesn't die. And that awareness, can be different characters to play this game, as long as you don't get too much attached to one of the characters.
Yeah.
Because then you start thinking you're the character.
That's interesting. Ryan, what does that bring up in you as you hear that?
Yeah, so I just started. I hadn't really thought a lot about that in the past, and then as you're talking about it, I was like, look, I know lots of points in my life where I can look backwards, and I can see how I was being, even just recently, and go, that's not what I want to be. So I can reach into my Zelda pack and go, okay. And it's not easy sometimes. Sometimes it's difficult to swallow the pride and to go, oof, that wasn't the best Zelda pick ever. I should have used something else in that scenario. But time and experience gives you just that. It gives you experience. And sometimes they're painful experiences, but they help you learn a better way of doing something, or maybe just another way. Maybe it's not the better way, maybe it's just another way. So as I'm sitting here thinking about it, going, wow, Sarah's version of being a giant is her version of being a giant. Mine looks totally different.
Yeah.
And my life's going to play out differently, and different things are going to come into view, and there's going to be different challenges for both of us that come up. And so I thought about this too the other day about being a giant isn't comparing Sarah and Ryan, or Nick and Ryan and Sarah. It's a personal journey of what do you want to be? Who do you want to be? How do you want to be? What do you want to be? What do you want to be? And as you play the game of life, and as you move through, you have the choice, and they're there. All things are there for you to pick. And so I think I like what you've been saying, Sarah, is they're there. They're just here, and sometimes different things emerge, and sometimes you realize, whoopsie pie, maybe I shouldn't have been that. And hey, I can now see how I was being. Oh my gosh. Okay. Now I have a choice.
Okay, so I picture Jumanji, when they come into the game and they're looking at their skills and abilities, and each of them has this different thing. And then Jumanji, the second one, they come back as different characters. And so they they were the one in the one game, and this is the Zelda idea, is they were that, and then they come back as this other version. And so the idea of reincarnation, if you think of our lives, is like we have all these reincarnations while we're alive. We have these rebirths and these awakenings in life where we're different versions. And so is awakening beyond that? Is it recognizing that you can be any one of these characters? Is it being the character? What would you define as that? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Are you asking me or Ryan?
Yeah, you, Sarah.
Yeah.
And Ryan next. No.
I think the awareness is key, because if you're not aware that this is even happening, then you don't know, right? You don't know what you don't know. The being aware and being present for me is key. Like I say, being present is the mother of all being, because how would you even know who you're being if you're not being present? So that being present in the moment, it is moment to moment. The only way to see all of these emerge is by being present. How would you know if this is gonna serve you or not? To be anyone other than who?
Yeah.
Sorry, I was reading Steve's.
Yeah, no, like that version of it, right? A lot of us try and be other people. Like we see how they're being and we think, I want to be like that. And so we pretend. Larry King in the book, The Third Door. I don't know if you've read that book, The Third Door. He says, what makes an Oprah and a Larry King and all these people so powerful in their interview style is that they just are purely themselves in their interview style. But most of us want to be an Oprah or something like that. You know what I mean?
It's also exhausting to try and be someone else. The amount of energy it takes to get for you to put that energy to try and be someone else. First of all, it's exhausting. You get drained eventually. And second of all, it doesn't lead you anywhere. And you're losing on that beautiful relationship between you and you. You're losing on seeing you and loving you and being present with you. And you create that kind of like self-hate, because that inside of you who wants trying to emerge is also beautiful. It's just being suppressed and put down. And, it's terrible to do that to yourself. It's terrible to telling yourself that you gotta get out of you. So I call that self-abandonment. Abandon yourself to try and be someone else. Lose yourself and your voice in the process. It's just so exhausting. I've tried it. It just doesn't work. It's not worth it.
Okay, so going back to the idea of relationship, we're all in relationships. We have different versions of relationship. But then you be yourself, and then you're by yourself. A lot of times is like the version of there's that entanglement within a relationship of honoring and coming together. But how do you maintain, right, that individuality within a relationship? I guess it's an alignment thing, people coming together and they're okay. Like you be you and I'll be me, and we come together, and that just works. Right.
It's funny you bring that up, because that's something I've been exploring with the past month.
I just read that in your thoughts.
I'm like, how did he?
Yeah.
And it's with what I've realized with this guy is it's all about speaking. Right? It's all about saying, it's all allowing yourself to be vulnerable and honest. And I realized the reason why we don't do that is because we're scared of, we're trying, like, especially in courtship, right? And we're trying to do this dance together. And we think we don't have permission to speak or say certain things, or if I say this, he's going to think that, or if I, and I decided to just have that conversation. and just say, this is what's going on right now, or this is like daily conversation. I mean, today I feel this way, or today I need space, or today I want to do this, or today something is emerging in me, so and I need to write about it, or today I'm just busy coaching, so I'm not gonna see you for the next week because I got to do this, and that. And allowing myself to truly speak up without that fear of losing him, or not being or not being or not dancing together. Basically, I'm not no longer gonna abandon me in fear of you abandoning this
That's
relationship.
powerful. Yeah. And if
And
he
that
moved
brought,
away, right? If he
huh?
moved away from that, so you don't abandon yourself and you're you, and he moves
Correct.
away from that, it's just an alignment thing is all. It's just doesn't mean anything about either party. It's just he might not align with that, but somebody else might, you know?
And it's up to him to make that choice, which is what
Right.
I told him. Like, it's up to you to decide, but this is where I'm at, and this is what I need. And it's and what matters to me the most is that I don't abandon myself. So whether you're aligned with this or not is up to you. You can stay, or if you're thinking that this doesn't work, I like you, I really do, but I'm okay with losing you versus losing me.
I say that to myself every morning.
In the mirror.
What do
In
you
the
say?
mirror.
I like you, man.
I like you.
I like
I'm
you,
okay
man.
with losing
But
you.
I'm okay if you don't want to be around me, that's cool. But it really is that internal dialogue, though. There's two versions of us going on. There's that worldly version, the version that has to live in this world and operate. I mean, you mentioned earlier the sales side of coaching and how that's a challenge. And there's this part of us that has to do the stretching and the discomfort and the uncomfortable things and really push and grow and be in society and connection. And so there's that version. And then there's this other version that's the Buddhist monk, that's the yogi, that's the higher self, the version that sees all of this. That's kind of the voice in the background coaching you along. And you can't really deny that inner self. I'm listening to the book called The Surrender Experiment. If you haven't
I
read
love
that,
that
it's
book.
powerful. But he has the same realization, is that he goes through like you did, and he becomes just the pure yogi and quiets that inner voice, but then discovers he's got to have it. It's necessary. And so the balancing, like going back to the idea of the conversation in the mirror, it's like, yeah, you're going to have that because you've got to live in this world as a human, and there's a spiritual side to you, a higher version of you that also gets to be honored, if that makes sense.
Yeah. They play together, right?
Yeah.
Like divinity and humanity.
Oh, I like that. Like playmates.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a dance.
Huh.
And it's a beautiful dance. And so it's the divinity drives the humanity. Like we were talking about earlier, how I went from practical, hardworking, overachiever Sarah to passive, chilling, camping, suppressing Sarah, right? And then you were talking about, like, eventually you come into this place of spirit. You use both, right? You gotta be practical because you're human, and you also spiritual because you are a spirit, and that's also always guided by that inner voice, and that divinity, that inner voice there just tells you. Like I would ask a question, and you would say, this is be, for example, do this. I can't come up with an example right now. Or be with this man, or do this retreat, or and in the moment be like, what? I don't date someone like that, or how is this even gonna work, or I don't have time to do this retreat, or like you start thinking with your mind into the how, or how do you make this happen, and it doesn't make any sense to your logical brain, but your divinity, it just tells you. It never says how, or no details.
Can I read a poem that I wrote that ties into
Please.
this? Yeah.
Yes.
I wrote this in, I think it was 2000. It's been a long time ago, but it's called The Soul. And I think it ties in because it's that blending of the two worlds. Is that okay?
Please.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The spirit and the flesh and blood were joined upon the earth, the holy and the common mud joined by mortal birth. Their goals were, as we realize, very different from the start, the body wanting through the eyes, the spirit through the heart. The two of them were not the same. They battled constantly. The body gave the spirit shame and wanted to be free. A kingdom that's divided is destined to the fall. The two joined, not united, cannot give it their all. The more refined began to teach the common of its goal and how their highness they could reach together as a soul. Their path was filled with strife, with struggles, and with pain. They wanted an eternal life to be free from earthly stain. The spirit and the dust now had a common sight, something that for both was just. They worked with all their might. Their heart was in it every day, outside of the worldly game where many bodies went their way, and the spirits did the same. The glory they achieved could never be explained. The happiness that they received would never be contained. The spirit and the flesh and blood had reached their earthly goal. The holy and that common mud were now a lovely soul.
Mm. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
You're such an amazing writer.
Thank you.
That speaks exactly to what we're talking about right now. That you wrote that in 2000?
I did, yeah.
Wow.
He wrote that. He quoted it from
I
himself.
quoted that. I wrote that a long time ago. Because in the journey, even back then, I'd have glimpses of connecting with that higher self, and then my ego would come in and just really, can I say this, fuck things up. It was like even the languaging of that, it's like it just ego is doing what it does, and spirit is doing what it does, and we're trying to work the two together. And man, my ego would get in the way, like, and it still does. I still find myself going into that ego state, like that swinging of the pendulum. I get over here and it's like, dude, not very fun. And then I get into the too spiritual and I don't get anything done. So from not fun to not done, right? Yeah.
Let's talk about that ego thing. Like, is it such a bad thing? Or because
No.
it's here, right? It's not like
Yeah.
we're not trying to kill it. It's not gonna die. It's just trying to live.
Well, yeah, if you try to kill it, it wants to live even more. It's got a drive for life, right?
Right. I mean, it has its good sides, and we can work together.
Yeah.
Or because it's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
So how do we become friends, or how do we because it's it, right? So how do we allow it to live by serving us? It's
Yeah,
kind of like,
it's never going away, right?
no, it can't, as long as you're alive. I mean, I don't think it can, right?
Steve. Explain, Steve. What ego? I mean,
It's the what I've learned from the monks when I was in Asia is they just laugh at all this stuff. Ram Dass, which is one of my favorite actually people, and where he died now. But I don't know if you've ever watched his videos, where there was one time where he showed up to do one of his teachings, and then he says this story about how they gave him a mic he didn't like, and he got mad. And that's the first story he says as he shows up. He's like, I got a mic I didn't like, and I got angry. And I thought to myself, oh, look at you, Ram Dass, all of this, all of that, and now you're angry because you didn't get the mic you like.
Like a kid, right? Like a tantrum.
Right.
I do that. Like, it's like, holy crap, man.
That awareness, though, to be able to watch it and notice it and laugh about it and be humble about it and say it without shaming or judging yourself, is the beauty in it all. It is the being human is the beauty of us being here. So why, just taking the curriculum of being human.
Somebody shared that humility is simply coachability. Like when you're humble, you're open to learning. You're open to learning from the experience or the event. That's all it is coachability. And that's where I'm playing right now. I think more than anything is if I show up a certain way and there's impact. So kind of like you going back to the yoga studio, is all these things are happening and you're going inside of yourself. How did I create that? Right.
Mm-hmm.
But there are things in our world that truly we do need to look at, and then other things that we get to recognize, yeah, that's not mine. Right. I can take that and put that out here. But there's this version of it, this experience or this creation that goes on within us that we can learn from that thing. We can create it differently if we need to. There are times we really don't need to, like showing up angry. Sometimes anger, I don't know, somebody who's going to say this. I think Townsend Wardlaw told me that anger is never powerful, yet it's an emotion. We have
it does show up.
Yeah. So if it's not useful and not powerful and it's evolved with humans, my question would be, is it not? Because my thought is it's included in the grief cycle. It shows up in abandonment. And it's usually right before somebody lifts, as they get out of apathy through anger. They move from being apathetic to angry and frustrated and do something about it. The challenge is when it becomes a lifestyle. Anger as a lifestyle might not be useful, but anger as a lighter fluid could really get you off your ass.
I think anger and any what we call negative emotion, I think all these emotions are just an indication of what's going on inside of you, the type of thinking you have in, and also it also shows boundaries, right? Like if you come into my space and you try, like as a woman, if you come to my space and try and grab me, that's going to make me angry. And I'm grateful for that anger because I'm going to make you stop.
What if anger is simply that, the boundary? What if anger is
that.
Like you hit my edges?
It's exactly that. And it's being able, and that's what I was talking about earlier about, like, it's being able to voice that as well. Like you're in my space, don't grab me like that. That's not okay. Be able to voice that instead of like feeling anger and just moving away from the guy or whatever and not saying anything. Which is the end. Earlier I was saying I just became very passive and started not talking or not expressing how I was feeling about things. But now I got to a point where I learned I can feel that, and I'm allowed to feel that, and I am also going to voice it to this person.
Yeah.
It's not just for me to go inside and look, why is this emotion coming up in me? But I also have the right to put a boundary around that. You can't just come over and grab me like that. And I'm going to look within me to see how I can improve. So both things. Speaking up, the next phase of awakening for me is finding that balance of speaking up.
Yeah, I would say I agree with this comment here, because anger is generally a secondary emotion and it's tied to sadness or fear. And so if you go a little deeper and look at where am I feeling sad or where am I feeling afraid, then you can start to see where your anger is coming from, and then go do the deeper work, which is that awakening of, it's all an awakening. It's an awareness of what's creating the emotion. The emotions are always caused by a thought. And so a thought is caused by a perception, and a perception is caused by all of the experiences you held as dear over time. So that impact is created by what you decided was important. And each of us has our own version of that. All three of us have our own version of what the world is and how it works, and what's okay and what's not. And then we create an emotion of sadness or fear around those perceptions. Each of us individually might have things that cause fear and sadness in us that are totally different.
Absolutely. It's always an indication that's telling you, what is your current state?
Okay.
What is scaring you? And, the beauty about this work and being conscious and aware is to be able to realize I'm feeling this way. It's an indication something is going on inside of me. Let me figure it out, and let me put a boundary to make myself to make myself feel safe while I figure this out.
Mm.
The not being conscious is feeling angry and expressing that, or yelling or fighting or punching someone, or
And it's outside of you. It's their
correct.
fault. It's the
It's their
world's
fault.
fault, right? It's the
Correct.
environment's fault.
They made me feel this way.
It's an external locus, right, of control.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I need to react to show them that they don't have the right to make me feel this way. So that's where it goes unhealthy. That's where these emotions have such a bad reputation because of the way people act on them. So it's never about acting. It's about looking within.
Okay, so that comment that just posted there, it might be real, but it might not be true. Well, go tell that to the person that it is a truth for, because it is true to them. And so a truth is a truth is a truth. And there are variations of truth, just like relativity, like the theory of relativity, that time is relative. It's subjective, that a truth is somebody's truth. And it is also real. So what happens is somebody has their anger and their truth comes out in that anger. And then we also deny their truth and their anger. It's like, you don't have any right to be angry, with no understanding of where their anger is coming from. But it also takes a conscious person to be able to have that dialogue, because if they can't have that understanding about their truth, or see it maybe a possibility like Zelda from a different character, then it's really challenging to have that conversation. So this is where awakening is so important, because you want to have dialogue with people who are doing their work and you're doing your work. It creates understanding, right? You could have this conversation with your current boyfriend and say, I'm going to be like this for a week. And he would have an understanding and say, yeah, that might bring some stuff up inside of me. I'm going to work on this while you're doing that. Right. And there would be some communication around it, versus you're hurting me. You're doing this to me. You did that to me. Right. That story that keeps us from taking a look.
Yeah. Denying someone one's thought in that moment is how it is. Exactly. Denying someone's experience is the worst thing you could do to them. Because they're already in their feelings. The worst thing you can tell someone when they're feeling angry or sad or jealous or, furious is, oh, it's just your thoughts. It's just the way you're thinking right now.
Yeah.
Right? That's the worst thing you could tell someone. Oh, you're angry? It's just the way you're thinking. Because they're so already involved in the emotion. And it's neither about saying, yeah, you have the right to be angry, go punch that person. It's not about that either. But it's more like, I understand, I'm sorry you're going through this. I love you. You want to talk about it? How can I help you? How can I serve you? Allow the emotion, because an emotion is just an energy. So if it shows up, now it needs to flow. Right? It needs to flow to come out. If you don't allow it to flow, you're going to suppress it and it's just going to show up a different way.
Yeah.
So if it's saying hi, just allow it to say hi. Just, whatever you need to do, breath work, meditation, love yourself through it. Shame it. When you tell someone this is just your thoughts, or you're telling them you don't have the right to feel this way, you're shaming them, and you can't shame yourself or people through this journey. It's the worst thing you can do, is shaming someone. You can love them through it, allow that energy to pass or flow through while they're going through that, and then once it does, then talk through what happened and try and give it some light and some understanding, and then you can see the thinking that's driving the person there.
Yeah.
But once the emotion is there, the best way for me is love. And I do that for myself too. If I'm feeling any of these emotions, I'm gonna love myself through it. My favorite thing to say now is I love me no matter what. So if I'm feeling jealous, or I'm feeling suffocated and I need space, or if I'm feeling sad or whatever, I'm not gonna shame myself for feeling those things. I'm gonna allow them to be, and hold my hand and be there for me, and then shift slowly shift into a different place. That's why I'm loving awareness is my first declaration on my document, because I'm lovingly aware of everything going inside of me, and not shaming me for what shows up.
If you can do that for you inside of here, then you can do that for others out here, because until you get to that point that you love and accept and are aware of yourself, it's hard to give anything to anybody else. You're closed off to anything they have to say. This is where I see a lot of in groups, out groups, right and wrong, and one party against the other party. And it's like, this is the best sports team ever. And no, this is the best sports team ever. And they fight over who's right. Versus we all have our own version of the truth, and creating some understanding of somebody's truth allows you to see it from their world. It doesn't mean you agree with it, but at least it lets you see where they're coming from when they say the thing. And then from that understanding, it acknowledges their point of view, right? And honors it and allows space for you to create it differently with them. So as possibilities, right? I can have a conversation with somebody and they could say, that really hurt me. And then I can go over there and say, tell me how that hurt you. And I'd like to hear more about that. And they tell me it felt like this. Great. I could see how that would create that in you, that acknowledges and validates what they're feeling. And then as a possibility, you could also see it as this. And you don't have to take this on. It's not like you have to hear me and say, that's my point of view now. It's just simply, it's an acknowledgement of what they have as a point of view and opening doors to other possibilities as a point of view.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That way you can create together.
Right.
Because, Steve says there are more than two truths. It doesn't have to be my truth versus your truth. I can be right and you can be right, and we can all be right, and that's okay. And it's not a fight. It's not being submissive either. It's more being open and understanding and finding a place where it's not
yeah.
It's not about,
thank you.
It's not a competition, it's not a
there
competition.
You go. Yeah.
It's just where I'm at, and where I'm at can meet where you're at. And it's as simple as that. It's not about me trying to make you wrong. And, I had this thing for a long time where being right is what determined my self-worth. I grew up in a family that's just very highly competitive. It was all about achievement. And I think we spoke about that last time, you and I, Nick. So, determined winning determined how much attention and love you will get at home. So winning is based on being right or getting the highest score, or
right.
It's winning basically. But it's also exhausting, right? Because for me to feel worthy, I have to make you wrong, and that's exhausting, and it just doesn't help. So letting go of that completely shifted my life. So then that's one of the things I was talking about earlier. Like, it's one of those patterns that can be useful or can serve, but it can also hurt. So do I need here to look for truth, or do I need to, does it serve me? Does it not serve me? This pattern that I've always had, because it's never going to go away, right? It's just, it's always going to be there, but it's learning it being of service or it using me. I don't remember how we got here anymore.
I don't either. Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It's useful.
So I'll tie in a pattern.
I don't remember my point.
I'll tie in a pattern though. Is the awakening of wherever you are, and whatever character you're in, and it's always us. So it's not like it's somebody else. It's who we are. But it's our awakening is where we are in that journey. So for you, there was a point of being, very in control and very driven, to another version that is very passive, right? And there's an awakening inside of that. And in each of those, there's a version of you at play that is your reality. And if we label that, I'm going to use this. Why don't we say this as reality? Because truth is creating some hang up here. So we get hung up on words, but your version and your perception of the world is a thing that is created in that environment. Like you start to see, I am this, and you start to be that. And then what shows up in the world is anything supporting that. So your reality. And there's the objective reality, the stuff that shows up in your world that other people can touch and see and experience. But then there's that perceptive reality inside of you that's slightly different. And again, it goes back to the character you chose to be in that awakening. But the awakening is beyond that. It's the idea that I am all of this. Everything I choose to be in this world is only always me. And like Steve said earlier, there's no better version of you than the authentic you that's inside of that. But we try and deny that so that we can be the world's version of us, right? And we get exhausted and tired. And so it's moving us into recognizing that we have that at play to create some space and acceptance and love for that, not shaming of it, that, yeah, I do that. Yep, I have that point of view. Yep, that's interesting. I think that way. Yep, I see that as the truth. And we all have our own. But then the other side of that is the imposing of that on others as though they need to see the way we see the world, right? That, no, you're wrong. Nope, let's do this. Nope, let's create as many differences as we can and fight about those. Versus, I can see where you're coming from with that point of view or that perception. If truth is getting in the way of perception and point of view, then let's remove that word for a minute and talk about perceptions. We all have perceptions and point of views that are different, because I can see how the word truth becomes this block and this construct that keeps people from really seeing what's going on in you, because it's still an out there problem. No, you're not seeing the truth. So let's remove that word. Let's go to perception. What's your point of view? Who are you being? And how does that interact with somebody else's point of being? Right? Did that make any sense?
Absolutely. I mean, that was a beautiful recap of how we got here. Thank you, Nick.
Yeah.
That was a great recap, which, it goes back to, being open and being present and aware, right? I say being present is the mother of all being.
Yeah.
And shaming is the mother of all negative emotions, if you want to call them that.
Yeah.
Shaming just isolates. It leaves you in the shadow. It leaves you in the dark. You shaming yourself. You don't give yourself the right or the permission to speak where you are, or how you feeling, or you think you don't have the right to say or feel the way you're feeling. So if you continuously, what I tell myself is that if I continuously expose myself out there, I have nothing to hide and I have nothing to be ashamed of, then, none of these things can control me, because I just speak about them. I let them live, right? But not in a way that as if I'm doing something wrong, right?
Expose yourself. That's, I think, what
Expose my.
I was gonna say something like you probably
Oh
shouldn't.
my
Sarah,
God,
I'll take this bullet.
That's like
I'll do
Pee Wee
this
Herman
thing.
style
Yeah.
stuff going down.
Well,
Steve, you're not going to like the version of me in that exposure. How about that?
That came out wrong, guys. That came out wrong. Okay.
It was just our perception. We were good.
Yeah.
I love that Ryan's been quiet for a while, and then the minute he hears expose yourself, he jumps in.
Yeah,
What I do.
Expose your soul. Let me put it.
We are all 14-year-old boys on the inside, like I think. But
so yeah, like speaking about all these things and allowing myself to say, this is where I am, this is what's going on, this is how I feel, because we were talking about relationships, Nick, and allowing that vulnerability as well, to tell the person in front of you, this is where I'm at, this is what's coming up, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
After my trip to Asia, I thought I wasn't allowed to say those things,
Yeah.
that I had to figure things out, and that I've reached the top of the mountain, and then
Yeah.
I am just gonna mimic monks and be at peace and just like very whatever. I'm not gonna show anything, and that really took me into this passive suppressive place.
Yeah.
And now I kind of like came to this middle point where I just say whatever I'm feeling, whatever's on my mind, not from a place of I'm trying to hurt anybody, or I'm trying to cause anybody any pain. But that's just where I'm at, and I'm okay with whatever I'm at because I love me no matter what. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying it because I'm not taking any responsibility for it either. I fully take responsibility for myself and who I am. And actually, the only reason I'm speaking it up is because I want to be better and I want to improve. I want to, and I want help. Whoever can help me with something or show me something,
Yeah.
I'll take it because I don't know what I don't know.
So living into that, like when you're in that space of doing that work and taking responsibility for your stuff, when somebody says something that's outside of you, then it truly becomes an event. It's no different from rain or sun or snow. It's an event. It's just simply that. What it means is where it starts to get muddy, is what it means about us when somebody says, look, I need a little space, I've got to do this. They're communicating. Then we make it mean, instead of it just being an event, we make it mean something about us. And usually it's from memories and experiences in the past that we bring up and bring into that experience and say, well, they're doing this, and that reminds me of this old thing that happened here. And when that happened, that really hurt. So I'm going to pull that into this situation because that I don't want to get hurt again. And your ego is simply saying, hey, let's not do that. But if we can step back from it, is no different from the wind blowing on your face. It's no different from the sun shining or a rainy day. And yet we want to control all of that. Like, why does it have to rain today? Well, it's raining. You're not going to change it with that question. It's raining. So if it is what it is, then no amount of frustration and shame about the rain is going to change the fact that it's raining, or the fact that somebody said something, or even the fact that we judged ourselves for that thing that was said. Because then we'll shame ourselves even further because we had judgments about what was said, and we internalized that. So like you're saying, just creating that peace with whatever happens it is what it is. And that creating peace with it as an event simply means that now we can rewrite this story that we've been telling ourselves over and over again about what it means about us. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, yeah, absolutely. It's all neutral all the time. And, again, it's a video game, and then it shows up and you choose whether you're going to use it or not. And you choose how to play this game. And then those emotions that show up, it's not even about the emotion, because it takes a split a second for an emotion to show up, right? Like,
yeah.
It's not like anger shows like, oh, should I feel angry? Right? It kind of like, it doesn't ask for your
Turning it
opinion.
on.
Right.
Right.
It doesn't ask for your opinion. It just shows up.
Yeah.
And so what I've learned in my experience is it's not even about the emotion. It's about judging the emotion. Whatever emotion shows up, if you're okay with it and try and love yourself through it, let it be while it's kind of like trying to make its way through you.
Yeah.
Because it's temporary anyways. It's just in that moment.
It's supposed to be. Most chemicals only last 90 seconds, but man, mine were lasting decades. I got really good at keeping them going. But most emotions really burn through the body in about 90 seconds.
The judgment makes them live longer. That creates resistance. If I'm resisting the way I'm feeling, or I think I don't have the right to feel this way, then I'm creating resistance. And it's physics, right? That resistance keeps it there. It doesn't go either way. It just gets stuck.
Yeah.
And those show up in your body. Eventually it manifests it manifests in your hips, like trauma stays in the hips, stress stays in the shoulders, but they stay, that's how it becomes a disease. Um, all because you judged it to begin with and created that counter energy, and now it's living there. And now because it's living there, you're pointing outside, right? If you're stuck in traffic or someone cuts you off, then now it finds a way to show up, and you're yelling at the driver next to you, or
Right.
or everyone driving around you
You
because
see me
there's
drive? It's like you were there.
Sorry for cutting you off. Yeah.
right.
That was me. It's hard to hide in my truck. You can't do that. It says Giants and the Smalls on the back window. It's like, well, we know who that
How's
dickhead
my
was.
driving?
Man, Ryan, what other thoughts are you having as you listen? I know a lot of times you'll just listen and then you'll hit us upside the head with something powerful,
Now for those at home, they can decide if it's powerful for them or not. But as I was listening, I know who Sarah is because of how she has been and how she is. That sounds funny. How she is, what she does, how she shows up. If you go back and listen to this, and the gold that's in there, that Steve Hardison puts it, man, this can change relationships. This can help you change the relationship you have with yourself, with your spouse, with others that you interact with. You can see, even if you don't agree necessarily with their point of view, you can see them and love them. I mean, just men and women, just take men and women, for instance. We're totally different creatures. If you read, which I'm doing right now, reading the book Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. It's the way that a dude is wired, generally speaking, is different than a way that a woman is wired. And their feelings come across differently, their thoughts and their expressions and their emotions and stuff like that. As I'm made aware of those things, now I can be aware of how I'm showing up and being sensitive to their needs, and our relationships strengthen. Sarah is doing this. She can see how she's showing up, what others are feeling and thinking, and create those relationships with people that become stronger and stronger and stronger. People love Sarah because of how she is and how she treats others, and that she's aware of their truth as well. And then no judgments, no shame, things like that. And then as you do this, as you move through life and the pendulum swinging back and forth and the Zelda options are popping in and out, you'll gain more and more experience and a greater understanding of yourself, and the awareness will heighten and increase. It's kind of like a spidey sense. You'll be quicker and quicker and quicker at recognizing situations and viewing things differently. That's, I think, a big difference in someone like Steve Hardison. His fear and anger and all these emotions and all these things still come up for Steve Hardison too, but the way he handles them, he just moves through it quicker, or he changes the way he does react. And as you do that, it's that life after awakening. What are the possibilities? Everything is possible at that point. And so I'm just appreciative. I've learned some things as I'm sitting here and heard, and not heard, but seen some different points of view from the comments. And I'm sure they would love to dive into some of those, later. It'd be interesting to explore some of those with some of these people. But just hearing your point of view, Sarah and Nick, as we navigate through this, it can help me. I can take certain things that you've said and pull them into my life and go, aha, there we go, and become more and more giant every day.
I love that. That ties back to, like you said earlier, Ryan, about the individual journey. Giant isn't a comparison thing. It's not putting it on a pedestal and saying which one is the best and let's measure that. It's simply comparing it within yourself. It's creating your highest version of you. So I love that. Thank you. Any other thoughts, Sarah?
I was just gonna tell Ryan, don't expose yourself. Don't be.
This is what Steve Hardison wrote, and I had to
Yeah.
smile and chuckle because do not read this sentence.
It's funny. Steve just
You know, when guys expose themselves, they end up in jail.
Yeah.
When girls do it, they end up as Instagram famous. So it's a little different. Not as loved or
I'm
well
not even gonna
received.
comment on that.
Ryan, any other final thoughts outside of what you shared?
I'm just loving you two and what you're up to, and just feeling a lot of gratitude. I say this just about every week, is the gratitude that I have to be able to see other examples of people being themselves and the best possible version that they're aware of at the moment.
Yeah.
And then helping others see what they're capable of.
Yeah.
That's really what it's about.
And
that goes for me too.
Right. Love your small parts.
Small parts. Love your small parts. Nick's pinkies.
I love it. Well, let's go ahead and wrap up. We'll do this again. The blending of the shows, bringing it here to the Sunday, you know, that works really well for us. I know there's going to be kind of some sadness about the Thursday nights, but we're going to move it into Sundays where we're going to blend the journeys and the expertise. And so I look forward to having Sarra back again, if you're willing to do that. And we'll pick some other topic and we'll just go off on it if that works.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always fun being here with you guys.
Yeah, you too. Thank you for what you shared today. I'm impacted. I'm going to go home I'm at home already. I'm going to reflect on what we talked about as well. For those that are watching, remember, you're exactly where you're supposed to be. And I think this is the thing of acceptance, is getting into the idea of X, you know, being where you are. You are where you are. And so from that space, letting go and releasing the judgments about being where you are is where I'd invite you to just settle in with that you trust every step is for your good. It's going to create you in the way you really could be created in this world if you allow it. It's the resistance to what is that often creates us, you know, spiraling into things that aren't serving us for too long. I've done that. So I'd invite you to just, as much as you can today, create peace and calm around a 2-hour show. I know, you know, Hugh said the other day, you know, I said, Hugh, we got a life, brother. And he goes, you are my life. And I get that. I love you, brother. And thank you. And we'll let that stew for a minute. So you guys remember where you are, keep going, keep stepping, even small steps. Sometimes just one thing a day is enough to change your life. So just do one thing, and then the next day stretch a little further and do another thing and expand out even further. But just do one today. If you can do one thing today, do that. And so we love you. Make it a giant day. We'll see you in the next video.
Love you too.